the Schumers, I'm sorry, the Pelosi's, no, wait, but the Pharisees also, sorry, erase that from the tape. I probably shouldn't get into that. But Dale likes it, but the Pharisees,
call her whatever.
the Pharisees also with the Sadducees came in 16 and verse 1, and tempting him desired that he would show them a sign from heaven. Okay, now this is on the same day. They came to him right after everybody was fed. You know what this reminds me of is Thanksgiving dinner after everybody's eaten, and they want to start political fights at the dinner table in the family. They want to start something after they're already fed. You know, they were probably hangry before they got started there. Everybody gets hangry. That means hungry and angry at the same time. And so they were all hangry. They had discussion here. They arguing here. They want to start some trouble. I don't know how many know that sometimes you have relatives that always want to start trouble. At the holidays. I don't know why they want to wait till the holidays, but they want to start trouble at the holidays. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not the only one that's got relatives like that. And they wanted a sign. Well, they wanted a sign. They were there this whole time, Tommy. They were there this whole time, and they wanted a sign. Matthew was so impressed with the signs here that he listed them. The lame, the blind, the maimed, the dumb. He listed the signs. There were massive signs that went on before the feeding of this 4,000. If it was just the feeding of 4,000, that should have been enough of a sign. But there was not enough of a sign, even with the healing and the feeding of the 4,000. So they asked him for a sign, and of course Jesus said that this wicked generation is not going to have a sign. That's just a different message altogether. But what I want to get into is this. Verse 3. And when his disciples were come to the other side, because Jesus sent them to the other side in a ship, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said unto them, in other words, they didn't bring any leftovers. How many know after Thanksgiving dinner you need to bring leftovers? I need to eat turkey for at least 7 days after I'm done with Thanksgiving dinner. I need that. Well, they get over to the other side, and Jesus said unto them, take heed of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, he's all upset because he's hangry. He's hangry. He's angry and he's hungry. And we forgot to bring bread. Now he's going to take it out on us. Well, he could have done it. He could have brought some leftovers. He could have fed us. And it's because we have taken no bread. That's what they said. That's what they reasoned among themselves. Here, you know, he must have had a little edge in his voice here. He must have had a little bit of an edge in his voice. He might have been a little bit put off. Well, why would he have been put off? I mean, he didn't... Oh, that's right, he was just dealing with the Pharisees. He's dealing with these Pharisees that were so clever and so cunning that they had a way of turning the hearts of people. And when you turn the hearts of people, one of the things that they did by their words is they not only turned the hearts of the people, but they started to cause a lack of faith in the disciples themselves, into the very ones that needed the faith. They were starting to turn, and Jesus started to see that the disciples' faith had started to turn. Let me tell you something about faith here. These were disciples that all of a sudden they had faith to feed 5,000 people and see people healed. 3 months later, they had gotten to the point where they had enough faith to see 4,000 people fed, and they see all these massive miracles. Now they get to the other side, and when they get to the other side, they find out they don't have enough. They don't have enough lunch money. This is the same day. They don't have lunch money. Jesus said, do you not remember? If we read a little farther here. He said, do you not, oh, you little faith. Why reason among yourselves because you have brought no bread? Do you not understand, neither remember the 5,000 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many baskets you took up? How is it that you do not understand that I spake it not concerning bread, but you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Then understood they that he bade them not beware of the leaven, that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He's not dealing here with a bread issue. He's dealing here with a doctrinal issue. He's dealing here with words that were sown to cause their faith to dwindle. They had gone from no faith to little faith, and Jesus sees them and He's proud of them because now His disciples, He's got this core of men that are now starting to move out in faith. They're starting to see His faith not wavering from situation to situation, and yet He's seeing that things are dwindling in their lives. They go from the faith to believe to feed 5,000 with only 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Now He sees them go to feed less people with more. And now they can't believe Him for bread. Lunch for 12. What He's saying is your faith is starting to dwindle. Your faith is starting to dwindle. You saw me feed 5,000 with 5 fishes and 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And now you're seeing me feed 4,000. Now you believe me to feed only 4,000, but it's going to take more of the natural things to feed those. It shouldn't have taken more fish. It shouldn't have taken more food to feed less men. Do you see this? It shouldn't have taken more food to feed 4,000. It should have taken less.
Yeah.
It should have taken less.
Amen.
But Jesus is starting to see that these disciples are starting to wane in their faith and can't believe Him for those massive miracles because something's happened to their faith. Something's happened to their faith. And then they get to the other side on the same day, and they said, He's angry because we haven't brought bread. Now Jesus is starting to think to himself, something's going on. They're not going forward, they're going backwards.
What? They're
not going forwards into faith, they're digressing. And Jesus said, you ought to be careful of the leaven of the Pharisees and these sheep-like disciples. And I say that lovingly, but sheep are the dumbest animals on the face of the earth. He's saying to these ignorant sheep, you've got to be careful of words. You've got to be careful of doctrine. You've got to be careful of who you're listening to. Because who you're listening to can either cause your faith to grow or it can cause your faith to dwindle. And your faith has been dwindling. And here they are, 3 months later. And they're not believing Him. It's taking more to believe Him now. In our lives, there's times when it may take more to make you believe. It might take more of the natural things. It may take for you to see a sign. It may take for you to see something. And Jesus said that ought not be. The deeper you get, the more your faith should grow.
That's good.
You should be able to feed those 4,000 maybe with a fish and a loaf. But it took all of what we had to feed the lesser group of people. So Jesus says, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. He said, Jesus was so cool. He didn't come up and say, who you been listening to? How come you don't believe me anymore? How come you can't believe me for miracles? Who have you been listening to? You've been listening to somebody else. You've been going down there to the Lutheran church. You've been going down there to the Catholic church. Who have you been listening to that your faith has so dwindled that you can't believe me for great miracles anymore after what you've just seen?
Wow.
And He didn't do that. Didn't indict His disciples. But He waited, actually. He waited another month. He just told them, be careful what you're listening to. And it said they understood. But I don't know if they really did. And so then we get to the final things that I'm going to read here in the 13th verse. This was a month later in August. On August 28th. So each one is about 30 days apart from each other. Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, and He asked His disciples, saying, who do men say that I am? And they said, some say that you're John the Baptist, and some Elijah, and some Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. was so smart. Who have you been talking to? No. Who do men say that I am? And these disciples, who sometimes have more mush than brain matter, said, well, some say that you're John the Baptist, which is really freaky because John the Baptist just died a few days earlier. That would have been pretty ridiculous. So they're listening to the ridiculous. Doesn't that tell you something? Here's disciples that saw the mighty miracles. They saw the people fed. And here are disciples that are speaking what they've heard. They've been listening to what other people have said about him. Some people said he's John the Baptist. That's the most ridiculous teaching that you could ever hope to hear. And yet they listened to it. Some say you're John the Baptist. Some say you're Elijah. Some say that you're Jeremiah or one of the prophets. You know what Jesus is saying here is this. He said, you cannot have faith and believe that I'm just a man. You cannot believe that I'm just one of the prophets. It's right here where I usually teach and say, you ought to be careful of going from meeting to meeting to meeting just to hear another word of prophecy from this prophet and from this prophet and from this prophet and from this prophet. I don't care how good they are. I don't care if they're Jeremiah. I don't care if they're Elijah. I don't care if they're John the Baptist. You ought to be careful who you're listening to. Prophecy that comes through the mouth of a man